Hello everyone. Today, One Piece chapter 922 has been released, and if you haven't checked out that chapter, I recommend you turn off this video and go check it out and then come back because I'll be spoiling you because this is a chapter discussion. Now, that said, let's start with the chapter because there's a lot to dissect in this chapter. Let's start off by saying that this chapter is a 4.5 out of 5. It's a very amazing chapter. It's an action-packed chapter. If you were looking for action in One Piece, this is a complete action-packed chapter. This is going to be a treat for a lot of people. It's an absolutely fabulous chapter. The art was amazing. Everything was on point. So, let's get that out of the way. Now, moving on to the chapter, we start off with Big Mom because we need to see Big Mom. Honestly, that was the best part of the chapter for me because I like story more than fights. So it was nice to see Big Mom do something. So we start off with Big Mom having a conversation with Marco and Perospero. As most of us suspected, Marco and Perospero did have an alliance, a short alliance, and they agreed to join together to work and take down Kaido. So Perospero is trying to convince Big Mom to break out of the alliance, but Big Mom tells him sternly that she was the one who decided to ally with Kaido. So she reminds him of that, but Perospero tries to tell her that they want to see her become the Pirate King. And she says that she knows that. So this is kind of important because a lot of people in the community keep implying that Big Mom rules by fear. She is a dictator. She is blah blah blah. Yes, this is true. Big Mom is ruling by fear, but that's important because that's her devil fruit. Without fear, her devil fruit does not work. She is a Yonko. They respect her, but at the same time, they have to fear her. She's too powerful. But the second thing also is that Big Mom is not only their mom. The most of her crew is consisting of her children. They're her children. But at the same time she is their captain. She's the captain of the crew. So they have to have certain level of fear and respect, which we can see in this chapter. Perospero is willing to talk to her. Perospero is willing to actually oppose her decision. So he tries to tell her to break the alliance and come back. But she tells him that it was her decision and she has a plan. So this chapter clears that part out. Perospero and the rest of the Charlotte family kids really want Big Mom to become the Pirate King. They're not disobeying her. They're not planning on overthrowing her, anything like that. If they actually wanted to overthrow her because they're scared of her, they should have done it back in Whole Cake Island. If she was rampaging all over the place. It was so easy for Perospero to kill her back in Whole Cake Island. All he had to do was make her slip from the sea slug that she was walking on. She would fall into the sea and no one would know. She would die. So the Charlotte family kids really want to have their mom, and she in turn knows that. She knows that. She's very clear that she knows her children's motive. She knows that are on her side. She even asked them, "Don't you trust me, Perospero?" So she's asking for their trust. She doesn't actually want them to blindly follow their orders, which is respectable. Big Mom has always been considered as a completely irrational person. Sometimes she is irrational, but there are a lot of cases where she is a rational person. For example, the time when Jinbei asked her to leave her crew, and some of the fodder homies were crying out, "Oh, Jinbei, why are you leaving?" She clearly made it very clear that both Jinbei and herself are pirates. So what good is a pirate life if you cannot do what you want? So she tells him to be free, but at a cost. He has to pay the cost of being free from her. So Big Mom is a little bit of a rational person, but at the same time, she is crooked and she has plans, which we can see here. She has plans with her alliance with Kaido. So we have to wait to see where that's going to end up. But that was one of the most interesting parts of this chapter. Then she has a very mature conversation with Marco. Another important thing about Big Mom here. Big Mom has never It's very rare for Big Mom to have a mature conversation because we see most of the time we see her, she's kind of a 5-year-old kid running around eating sweets and all that stuff. So here she's having a really mature conversation with Marco, and Marco agrees that their alliance is broken because Big Mom has no plans of withdrawing from Kaido. So she asks Marco. She recognizes that Marco is a very respectable person. He's strong. She respects his strength. And she's having a conversation with him. And she asks him, "Why is Marco, a person like you, helping those kids?" Again, Big Mom, after being rolled out of the main hall by Jinbei and Robin, she still considers them as kids. She thinks that they're playing pirate games. I already made a video on how Yonko give their strength, how Yonko respects strength and how Yonko respect equals. They only consider people who are equals to them as a threat. So Big Mom once again does not consider Luffy or his crew as a threat. She considers them as kids. And she asks Marco, she proceeds to ask why the remnants of Whitebeard pirates have ended up this way. Now Marco corrects her, saying that the Whitebeard's last words, Whitebeard's words do not bind the remnants of the pirates. So implying, well, basically saying that the Whitebeard pirates, the remaining Whitebeard pirates are free to do whatever they want. The response that Big Mom gave to this statement that Marco made was the most impressive thing that I've ever seen. She says, "Dead men tell no tales" in some translation, and or "dead men give no orders" in the official translation. So it's really impressive to see Big Mom have such a level of conduct, civility to Marco. She tells him to do as they please. She says that a lot. She tells people, "Do as you please." She told Jinbei the same thing. But at the same time, she is up to something. We know that. She's devious. She's planning something else. Well, then we proceed with Carrot chasing after Marco. Carrot chasing after Perospero for revenge for Pedro. And Wanda is going there, so probably a Carrot Wanda team up with against Perospero. But at the same time, Big Mom is right there, so we'll have to wait to see where that goes. Luffy's once again running away and he's trying to get to Kaido, so the samurai are making way for him, so that's good. There's some progress there. Then we've come to the second most important part of the story, which is Black Maria. We see Black Maria in her banquet hall and she is singing a song as a background music for all the events that's going on in the raid. Now her song is kind of weird because it's something of a romantic song. It's about two lovers who want to meet and they meet finally under the moonlight, under the snow. Now this is so weird because there's a battle going on in the chateau and she's singing a song about lovers and meeting together and all that stuff. It doesn't make any sense because it doesn't overlap properly. So there are a lot of theories in the community about what this song represents. So some people say it's a song about uh, two lovers, namely Otsuru and Kinemon, who are waiting to meet each other and they will finally meet each other under the moon after the war is over. Some people have crazy other wild theories saying that it has something to do with Wano's old folklore about Joy Boy and probably his lover who was Poseidon of that time. So these are very interesting theories and we'll have to go over them later sometime. But this is very interesting that Black Maria is singing a song that has nothing to do with the battle, unless it has. We'll have to look into it later. Now, and then we move on to the really amazing fight scene, the panel, the art is absolutely amazing. We see all the 9 Scabbards going against Kaido. Now, here's a very interesting thing about this though. Kaido uses his roar and his roar turns into lightning. This is something that was spoiled by Pirate Warriors 4 series games a long time ago. Kaido is able to use lightning attacks when he roars. So, it's very interesting that the games were able to get so many things very accurately from the manga, even before it was released. So that's something to keep an eye out for, because we'll have to discuss that later. Because Shanks and there are some other unknown characters that have some certain abilities that could actually end up being canon if this is how it's going. We see the Scabbards dodge almost everything, and they actually do land a lot of attacks. Inu attacks with his sword and he electrocutes him. Neku does his uppercut. All of this is very fancy, which is really nice. The Scabbards are getting their moment to shine, which is very important because the Scabbards have been waiting for 20 years. Luffy himself said that the Scabbards are the ones who are supposed to start this war, so it's fairly reasonable that Kaido gets his chance against the Scabbards and the Scabbards do some level of damage. Now, the one big thing that the community is suddenly divided upon is how the samurai are able to do so much damage to Kaido. Now, you have to understand that Kaido, Big Mom, these Yonko are not like god tier. This is not something that they're not defeatable at all. The fandom has set their own expectations way too high for these characters. Kaido was defeated a long time ago. He was defeated several times. He was captured several times. The only thing is that he was not able to die. He was not able to be killed. So Kaido getting defeated here in Wano is not a real mystery, it's not real shock because he's been defeated several times before. Whether he dies, whether he gets killed or not, that is what's going to make a shocking statement. Now, all the Scabbards were able to get a hit, and that is a little bit of a controversy in the community in Reddit as well because there's an argument where how is Kawamatsu, who was supposed to be locked up in a cage for 20 plus years, how is he still remaining strong? How is he not diminished? I mean, come on, you can't really argue with that. He's one of the samurai, he needs to get his shot. you can't really go too much into logic about that. And Kinemon, Kanjuro, we can see that they were in the flashback in the end of the chapter. We can see that they actually did train in their own styles, so they're not actually weak. And you must understand that samurai of Wano are not weak. Even Akainu clearly mentioned that the samurai are too strong. They're strong in Wano. We don't know about these samurai, their strength. They have a lot of techniques that no one else knows. Ryo is one of them. The ability to pierce these things is one of them. So we're seeing these samurai for the first time, so there's a lot to be impressed about. It's more about the samurai actually being impressive than Kaido not being impressive. That's the takeaway from this chapter. The samurai have been severely underestimated. Kinemon was severely underestimated this whole time. Now you have to understand, people were saying that, oh, Kinemon, why is he so strong now? Why wasn't he able to do much in Punk Hazard or anywhere else? You have to understand that Kinemon, like Kaido said just a few chapters ago, Kinemon was trying to remain hidden. He did not want to attract attention to himself because they would start hunting him. He was trying to move and make allies along the way. He was trying to find allies, and he was trying to stay hidden under the Straw Hats. He was trying to stay hidden. That's the point. So if he went around doing a lot of chaos and doing a lot of battles for the Straw Hats, he would end up being the target. He would end up being recognized. So that's another thing you need to keep in mind, but of course that's not completely explanatory, but that is a little bit of a solace. Next, we can go to Izo. Like, I need to discuss a little bit about Izo, how you want to pronounce it. Izo came all the way from God knows where to fight in this war, and all he's doing is shooting bullets. We know that Hakile's bullet shouldn't really do much to Kaido, unless it's a sea prism stone or some kind of a special bullet technique. I don't know what that bullet is going to do. So I really like to see Izo do something really special, because he's one of Whitebeard's commanders, and he came all the way back into the story, and he's really not doing much. I'm very impressed with Raizo. Raizo's technique was really impressive. The way he used the scroll, that was really nice. And the final thing in the chapter, where all the scabbards, not all the scabbards, the four main scabbards, Ashura, Denjiro, Kinemon, and Inuarashi, all four of them, they pose in the Oden two-sword style, and they pretty much do a major damage to Kaido in the same spot where Oden damaged them. This is a very symbolic moment. Now, a lot of people are upset about this moment, a lot of people are happy about this moment. Whichever way you are, this is a very symbolic moment. Kaido's eyes go white, yes, but at the same time, it did go white back in the flashback too. I really doubt that he's done for. Of course he's not done for. This is just the scabbards getting their moment to shine. Okay, that's what you have to understand. The scabbards need to get their moment to shine. They are going to get obliterated pretty soon. Kaido is going to destroy them, but this is their moment to shine. They're proving themselves worthy. Now, this is all about the whole chapter. Now, if I had to critique this chapter a little bit, I mean, critique it based on the fights, there are some things that's like really weird what's happening in this story right now. Like, why is Kaido staying in his dragon form? That form is one of the most like not useful forms for combat, especially when you have to fight against 9 people who are very tiny. You cannot aim at them properly, you cannot move around properly. Basically, Kaido in dragon form gives them a lot of real estate to fight. They can do a lot of damage to him. They could cut him all over the place. That's what's happening right now. For people who play Pirate Warriors 4 really know what I'm talking about. When you're that big of a boss in the map, you can't really target anyone properly. I mean, that's really not a fair comparison, but that's what I'm trying to say. Like, he's too big right now. They can attack him anywhere. They can do a lot of damage. There's a lot to attack. But if he was in a different form, or if he was in a human form, he can actually try to put up a fight. Now, that's another thing. And people are suddenly using this as a way to, make the Yonko look bad. But you have to understand that these are 9 really powerful scabbards. They're almost on the level of a commander. And these 9 scabbards are jumping on him at the same time. They are all ganging up on Kaido. So it shouldn't come as a big surprise that Kaido is getting a little bit overwhelmed, that he's getting bleeding all over the place. So people should really keep their expectation in check. Kaido, Big Mom, Shanks, and all these top tier people, Akainu, Sengoku, Garp, whoever you take, all of these people are going to be defeated at some point or the other. Their whole purpose in the story for the plot to move on is that they have to be defeated. They have to be disposed of. Luffy and his crew and the next generation has to take over. So it should not be a surprise that Kaido is slowly going down. Big Mom is going to go down pretty soon. The others are going to go down pretty soon as well. Okay, it's only a matter of time. So you will never move. You cannot move forward in the story if Kaido doesn't get defeated, and this is the first step. They are slowly dwindling him down. Is he done for? Absolutely not. Kaido is not going to get defeated by a few scabbards. Luffy is the one who's going to be defeating this Kaido. He's already been preparing for that. Before Luffy reaches the top, the scabbards will be done. They will finish up with whatever they can do, and then they're gonna get obliterated, as we all know. So rest easy, remain calm, and let's see what happens. Let's see what happens with the battle. The more important thing about this story is that Big Mom is not leaving Kaido behind. A lot of people were assuming that Big Mom is going to betray Kaido. Big Mom is going to leave Wano, which is also possible, which is still possible. She still has something in her mind. But for now, Big Mom is staying in Wano. Big Mom is still allied with Kaido. Will she remain like that after she sees Kaido getting defeated, or if Kaido is about to lose, she might betray him, but for now she's there. So we have to be careful about where this is going to go. We have to wait and see. This is a very interesting chapter, very hype chapter. A lot of people will be very interested in this chapter, and the best part about this chapter, of course, is that next week there is no break, so we can expect a new chapter next week, which is going to be very interesting. So as a whole, this chapter is a 4.5 out of 5. The only reason it's a little bit less is because there are some inconsistencies where, like, for example, the scabbards who came 20 years ago, who jumped back in time, they're keeping up with the scabbards who trained for 20 years. That is a little bit unexplained. Like, how are they all equal? There shouldn't be an equal between the scabbards who time jumped and the scabbards who trained for 20 years. So there's that. There's a little bit of inconsistency there. There's a little bit of a thing where why is Kaido still in dragon form and letting them attack him. So there are some small inconsistencies when it comes to battle strategy, but that's how the story goes, and we will take it as it is. It's a beautiful story. The art was on point. Everything was absolutely fabulous, and I can't wait for the next episode, next chapter next week. So I'll see you guys then. You can share your thoughts and comments in the comments below, and we can have another discussion later on. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Bye.